Zambia defaulted $42.5 million, November 2020. Debt exploded $1.9 billion to $12.7 billion. Copper is 70% of exports, their richest resource. Debt hit 120% of GDP, crushing the nation. Public debt surged 300% from 2014 to 2019. Kwacha depreciated over 50% against the US dollar. Reserves dropped to $1.3 billion, barely 2 months of imports. Copper price dropped 20% in Q1 2020 due to pandemic. Government spent $1.2 billion on debt servicing in 2020, consuming a significant budget portion. This is the spiral. Zambia's budget deficit reached 7.5% of GDP in 2018, showing systemic issues. At copper price reached an all-time high of over $10,700 per metric ton in May 2021. The boom was fleeting. Over 60% of Zambians live on less than $2.15 a day. This is the human cost. Average Zambian household spends over 40% of its income on food. Survival is a daily battle. Rural poverty stood at 76.6% in 2015, highlighting a deeper, forgotten impact. Cost of living increased by 15.5% in 2021, hitting families hard. Mining contributes only 2% to direct employment, limiting opportunities. Mining share in Zambia's GDP fluctuated, reaching around 10% in 2020. Average life expectancy in Zambia was 63.8 years in 2021. This tragic reality begs the question, how can a copper-rich nation suffer so much? Health budget was only 9.3% in 2021, below international targets. Copper Belt experiences acid mine drainage, affecting local water sources. Inola open pit mine, a giant, impacts local air quality. Mining sector employs approximately 100,000 people directly and indirectly. Government initiated KCM liquidation in 2019 over breached agreements. ZCCM privatization generated only $200 million, far below expectations. KCM was sold for $25 million in 2004, despite much higher value. Agriculture contributes only about 18% to GDP, showing limited diversification. ZCCM privatization led to over 100,000 job losses by 2000. Zambia is Africa's second largest copper producer, after DRC. Government announced plans to borrow $2.6 billion more for infrastructure in 2017. Debt restructuring under G20 Common Framework began in 2021. Zambia projected a budget deficit of 6.7% of GDP for 2023. ZCCM privatization in the late 1990s involved 28 separate sales. $1.5 billion Lusa Kandola carriageway project was Chinese-financed, facing scrutiny. Pani Copper Mines was fully taken over by government in 2021 for $1.5 billion. Government seized control of KCM from Vedanta in 2019, leading to legal battles. Zambia produced approximately 837,996 metric tons of copper in 2020. Zambia lost $3 billion in potential tax revenue from 2004 to 2014. Government revenue from mining royalties and taxes was $700 million in 2021. Average Zambian citizens' income per capita was $1,130 in 2022, a stark reality. Mineral royalty tax system replaced profit-based tax in 2008, causing disputes. Mineral royalty tax rate fluctuated from 6% to 9%, then 5.5% by 2022. A 10% export duty on unprocessed copper concentrates was introduced in 2013. A 10% export duty was reversed in 2014 after pressure. Copper price fell 30% from 2014 to 2016, severely impacting revenue. Copper prices plummeted below $4,000 per metric ton in early 2016. Fitch Ratings downgraded Zambia to default in November 2020. Sanchi Mine is Africa's largest copper mine by volume. Hydropower reliance makes Zambia vulnerable to droughts, impacting mining. Power outages reached 10 hours daily in 2015 due to low water. $2 billion Kafue Gorge Lower Hydropower project was Chinese-financed. Chinese creditors hold one-third of Zambia's external debt, $4.2 billion. Total debt to China was estimated at $6.6 billion by the end of 2022. Domestic borrowing increased 400% from 2014 to 2019, crowding out private lending. Zambia's total debt reached $32 billion by the end of 2022. Zambia reached an agreement to restructure $6.3 billion of its debt in 2023. Restructuring involved a 20-year repayment with a 3-year grace period. Interest payments consumed 30% of government revenue in 2020. Environmental cleanup costs for historical mining sites exceed $1 billion, a hidden debt the people pay. Lumwana Copper Mine produced 271 million pounds of copper in 2022. Zambia plans to increase copper production to 3 million tons per year. Zambia secured a $1.3 billion IMF credit facility over 38 months in 2022. G20 Common Framework debt restructuring process began in 2021. Zambia defaulted on a $42.5 million Eurobond interest payment in November 2020. Zambian government's debt service payments are projected to consume 52% of domestic revenue in 2023.